This is Joey, everyone. He's a great friend of mine that I met at church. He was at my wedding a few months ago, and he's um he's a really good man that I admire, who happens to also be a dad. And I
Mhm.
wanted to, as I started this journey, reached out to Joey and a bunch of other people, and Joey was one of the first people to respond. I think actually, Joey, you were the first person to say yes. I want to do
Oh,
this. Let's
okay.
put a date. And so it's a privilege to me to not only do this with you, you as my friend, but also you, Joey, as a man. Like I
Mhm.
really admire you. I love how you show up. Even the conversation we just had about how you're pretty open with your kids. So like you showed them some of the things that we spoke that we're going to speak about today. So
My
like that to me is just so cool. How you and Carol show up together is always
mhm.
awesome.
Yeah.
But for people who don't know you, uh, Joey, who are you? How many kids do you have? What's going on? How long have you been a dad?
Okay, pretty much. I'm Joey. Um, 42, gonna be 43 next month. Been married about 23 years now. Um, I mean, I have two beautiful kids. My oldest is 21, gonna be 22, and my youngest is 15. And it's been a journey, man. It's been a journey because started my life at pretty much 20 years old, like almost right out of high school. I graduated 19, and then 20 came. Carol was 17, 18, and decided to get married. And hey, it's been a bumpy road, but at the end of the day, I do believe in a God that's loving and caring, and I believe that without Him, He was the glue to our marriage, and without Him, we wouldn't be where we are today, man.
I love it, man. And one of the questions I want to ask, and maybe we could play around with it, is what is one of your happiest memories of being a father?
Okay. So one of the happiest memories of being a father, um, for me, if I were to pick for each of my children, for Julie, my oldest, when she was in dance recital, I remember they asked the dads if we would join the stage with them and dance with them. And I remember I was very excited to even do that. So I was like, all right, cool. So I went up on stage and it's just me and Julie, the music, and we're just, locked eyes and we're just dancing. And that was one of my favorite moments with Julie. And for Jonathan, I remember coaching Jonathan in the Little League, and I remember watching him pitch his first game, and I'm just like, wow, that was awesome. But if I asked them, they would say I remember my favorite time with you. Both of them both agree was me taking them to the Yankee Stadium game, to watch the Yankees play, and them seeing all the people, the green grass, watching the Yankees out there doing their thing, and having their hot dogs, and you know they felt that that was one of the best memories. I was like, okay, great. But hey, at the end of the day, I can say that I was there.
How old was Julie during that dance recital?
Julie must have been like 6, 7. Yeah, she
Six
was
or
young.
seven. What about
Yeah.
Jonathan when
And
he was first
Jonathan,
pitch?
same age. He was like
Yeah.
7, 8 years old. I think 7. He was 7 years old pitching. Yeah.
What about the Yankee game?
And the Yankee game, they were a little bit more older. I think they were. I think Julie was like 9 or 10 around that time, and Jonathan was, 6 years behind her. Uh, um, Jonathan must have been at 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah. So Julie was before her teens, like maybe 11, 12, and then John was
Mhm.
like right behind her. So it was young. They were young.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how, well, kind of cool how like we're like, no, this is definitely the favorite memory.
Right, right,
They would totally agree. And it was just a
right,
little different. So that's good. And I know that's a tough question to ask because it's like, all right, like which one do I pick? And
right,
sometimes it could always be like, what's the most recent one?
right.
And well, I wanted to ask you again, like, it's like, with all dads, you want your kid to be happy, you want your kid to be healthy, get them what they want. What would you say, like, if that were all, like, that's all taken care of? What is the greatest hope that you have for your kids?
I tell you right now, and I had to think about that question. And pretty much the answer that came up with is I hope that they can establish a relationship with God and Jesus Christ, to tell you the truth, because without that, you know, they need a solid foundation. You know, mom and dad will always fail them, but God would never fail them. I feel that he has all the answers. I don't have all the answers. So my hope is for them to really have and establish awesome communication and awesome relationship with God, because it's gotten me this far. So if I could pass that on to my kids, hey, I think God would smile down on me for doing that.
Let's flip it. What is your greatest fear as the dad for Julie and John John?
Yeah. So my greatest fear is to outlive them. I can
Mm.
honestly say that any parent who has kids and they get buried or die before them is any parent's greatest fear. And yeah, that would be definitely my greatest fear.
Yeah, it's something that my mom has said sometimes too. So totally, I'm not a dad yet, but
Hmm.
it's resonating. And if you could go back in time, let's say we could go back in time, what would you do the same with both your kids?
I mean, I think the same, what I would do is just be present, be there, and always, enjoy the time with them. That question, I had to go back and forth with it, because I'm just like, what would I do differently? I mean, if I would do it differently, it would be like, oh, I wanted to be uh, financially secured. I was only young. I was only 20 years old. I was just starting, and I didn't have the best job in the world. But uh, the job I did have gave me the opportunity to be there for them.
Mhm.
Like I said, going to their spelling bees, uh, watching them get an award, their games, the recitals, all those things. I never missed one. So that question went back and forth. Like, no, I don't think I would do anything differently. I think them knowing that dad was in the crowd watching them weighs more than any gift, any physical gift I can give them. I mean, time, you can never replace time. You can replace, materialistic things, but time you can never get back. And if you look through the photo album, they always see mom and dad there, and just being present in their life.
It's funny that you mentioned that because it's like a buddy of mine, Paul Reddick. He has a podcast called the Baseball Dads Podcast. He's been doing that for years. And one thing I noticed, like listening to these men talk about, being dads being dads for kids who are in baseball, it's that time, like he has a concept where like, look, like you only have a certain amount of time with your kid. In that case, it was like your son, but with both your kids, like when they're 18, like that's kind of like when they're going to be leaving, um, like metaphorically speaking. And it's like, what are you going to do in that time? And I think you can probably resonate this. Like, I think as men, I don't know if it's a culture thing or if it's maybe just like the competitive part of us that's like I need to have the finances, and maybe it's that protector in us. Like I need to have the finances taken care of. I need my family to be taken care of, and sometimes that can almost take precedence over certain things, such as time. And I think one of the like to me, just here listening to you and knowing you, but not knowing that 20-year-old version of you is
Hmm.
like look at the wisdom that you had at such a young age, and like yeah, like the
Hmm.
time, the most invaluable currency, and that was the one that you stuck with, kind of like
I
almost. I don't know if it
definitely,
was involuntary, but
no, but definitely it was something I learned, because you want to be better, right? So I learned from my parents. My parents did the best they can with me and my brother and sister, but they weren't there because they were working so hard. I think if they would have got, I guess, I've been walking with Jesus for quite a while now, and a lot of the teachings that I've learned was through the Word and through my mentors, and you know that being there is more important, right? So
mm,
I had of so I learned from my parents' mistakes. I'm like, no, I'm not. I don't care about the money part. I don't care about, if we're living in such and such place. I do care about me being present. So in the course of this interview, you're gonna see that I'm gonna tell you once more over and over again that being present and being there for them is gonna be the most important thing that you can be as a father. 'Cause the father, people think that the father job is just to provide and protect, but there's so much more than that, you know? Um, it's crazy. If you look at a lot of people who are in prison, you ask them, where was dad? Nowhere to be found, right? And they just, they live their lives without a father and they make the wrong choices and, they end up in certain places. So I learned from my dad and my dad was great, he worked so hard, but he wasn't there, but the times that he was there, I was very like, I had smiles on my face. I was like, wow, dad is here today. Let's go outside, let's go. Like he used a rollerblade and I would chase him around on my bike. I still remember that like if it was yesterday. And that's just the little bit of time that he spent with me, So I would take that. And I was like, I'm gonna take that, I'm gonna magnify it by 10 times and I make sure that my kid's like, now my daughter's gonna be 22 and she still wants to hang out with me. So I'm like, well, I'm pretty, I think I did a good job and she still wants to hang out.
Yeah, I think it's I remember with my dad, there's one specific moment. It was it's like my dad, he lives in Colombia, and so we would when we would go to Colombia, we would visit him. And I just remember this one time, I don't know how old I was. Maybe I was 12, maybe I was 10. Um, but I remember we left my grandma's house and he was there. And they're like, oh, why don't you stay over? And like, you're a kid, you want to hang out with your cousins, you want to have a good time. And they're like, no, we'll come back in the morning. Like dad's gonna be here. We're gonna hang out like tomorrow. But tonight, like, let's go hang out with our cousin. And then we did that, and like, everyone's like, my dad was staying at my grandma's house, my mom's house, and he was staying there so he could like, be there when like to visit. And I just remember we went to my aunt's house, and I don't know how I found out. I found out on the car ride over that he wasn't actually staying there. He wasn't going to be there the next day. He was actually leaving back for work um, the following morning, so we wouldn't be able to see him. And I remember just like, just sitting. I just remember exactly where I was in their living room in Colombia, in that specific house, just crying, just like I couldn't. And they left me alone. They gave me my space, and I remember my uncle came by, and my cousin came by, and just like trying to make me feel better, but like also just like, hey, like let's just have fun. Like it is what it is. And I remember that it was just like it's like what you said, like when me and my sister would see my dad, like there would be a lot of fun. But like when he wasn't there, like there was a lot of pain there. And sometimes that would come up in those moments. But like I remember that vivid moment, like, oh man, like did I mess up in
Mm.
that chance? And also it's like, why is this kind of happening? Like why does this have to happen? And I really respect how you mentioned that about your parents, because I wanted to ask, what is it that you had in your relationship with your dad, your mom, or both of them that you want to create in your relationship with each of your kids, or that you have been creating in the relationship with each of your children?
Mm. What I wanted to create. I just want them to be, what I want to create is security for them, as in where they're comfortable and able to talk to me and my wife about anything and they don't have to worry about judgment. You know, I think as you look at your parents, on how they are, right? So if your parents are strict, whatever that, you're not going to really be open to tell them anything because you're worried about disappointing.
Hmm.
In my case, I was like, well, I want my kids to be completely transparent with me. I know they have their own lives. I don't know what goes on in schools or at work or wherever they're at socially. But at the end of the day, I do want them to be secure enough to come to me and my wife and be like, hey, I messed up, and we can coach them out of it. I don't want them to feel like I don't want to use the fear tactic.
Hmm.
I fear that I feel like the fear tactic really doesn't work. Um, yeah, so if I were to go create just security, this is home base for them. They can be here and they can be themselves. They don't have to change who they are. And and me and my wife just listen because at the end of the day, sometimes you don't need to say anything. All you gotta do is just be there and listen. Yeah,
Yeah, that's one of the tenets that you learn as a coach. Like, just people would just benefit just from talking to a lamppost. All you got to
yeah,
do is just not talk.
right.
um, so what are so you mentioned so we kind of steered from the question in the sense like that's the thing that you want to upgrade from what your relationship with your parents and what you want to do differently with your kids. Is there
Yeah.
anything that you would want to do the same that they did with you guys?
Mm, mm. I would have to say that what would I do the same that my parents did for me? Mm, that's a rough one. You got a good one because I always model myself like I learn from the mistakes, not from what they the thing. But I can honestly say that my parents really were the type to help others.
Mm,
So if I were to give something to them that my parents gave me was always help others. You know, family doesn't matter who they are, but being a person where you can help with those strings attached, it's a thing that I learned from my mom and dad. They helped out a lot of people, and I mean, they helped out so much that they thought they forgot about themselves, and they're like, and then I'm looking around like, well, mom, you guys need help now. Where's the help from everybody else? And they're like, son, just we don't think about that. All we think about is helping others. And I was like, all right, I got you.
yeah. Oh, dude, that's awesome. It's very easy for us to see, what went wrong or what were the mistakes. And it's a great to me, it's been a great thing to cultivate. I'm like, all right, but what did go right? Even in like in the mistakes that I made, like, okay, what went right? Why did I do that?
Mm,
How did that benefit me?
right.
And I'm curious, what is your proudest moment as a
Mm.
father? Not about your kids, but as you as a father. I know
Me,
sometimes they
yeah,
can be humble.
yeah. Once again, I'm gonna go back to just being there, man. I think that's my proudest moment as a dad. I'm like, I don't care. Like I was like, the bills could be piled up, man. And if I had to work overtime or whatever like that, but at the end of the day, man, you don't understand how great it is to take your kid to school, right? And then picking them up from school. And then, I mean, it's when they see you down the hall from school and they see dad there waiting for them, the biggest smile hits their face, even if they had the bad day in school, but just knowing that, oh, dad is going to come pick me up. Um, and they come running down the hall and they give me the hug and I ask them, how was your day? Or I take them to the park for ice cream. Come on now. Like those things, Julie remembers like, yeah, we used to go to that park over there and wait for mommy until she get out of work and then we'll go pick her up. And the same thing with Jonathan. Julie will be in dance school and I'll go ahead and I'll take him to the park and we'll take pictures and just send him to Carol and she'll be like, oh, how cute, whatever like that. You look at his face, he's so happy. So the proudest moment, because not many dads make the time. They don't make the time. They just think that making money and a roof over their head, make sure they go into a really good school district, really, that they're set for life. I remember hearing a story about I believe it was like the owner of Coca-Cola, the guy who made Coca-Cola.
Mhm.
And the story goes where he was in his deathbed and his sons go to him and he says, I'll give everything up just to spend more time with you. Right. And I'm just like, yo, this guy had it all. He gave the empire of Coca-Cola to his his kids and stuff like that. And his only wish was to be there, you know? So I was like, wow, that's impactful. So I was like, I just like I said, I'd rather be there for them and share the memories. And so going back to the question is that is my proudest moment, that my kids can know that I was there.
Yeah, it's and again, to me, it's such a remarkable thing that you recognize at such an early age, because the more men that I've, or the more dads that I've met, actually just people in general, like it's not just the fathers, but it's the kids. And I've done this long enough to know, like, I just wish dad was there more, or dad says, I wish I was there more. And
Hmm.
sometimes it's, I don't know who's hearing this, who's probably resonating with this part, but it's just that sense of like, sometimes when you're in that place, it's like, I just don't know how to get out of this. Like, if I do this, it's going to cost them their security, their safety.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like there's a video going around that I really dislike. I don't know if you caught this on like social media. It's on YouTube. It's like a hardworking dad is not always going to be a present dad, because he can't be.
Hmm.
And the
Right.
present dad is not always going to be a hardworking dad. And I really just dislike that, because it's just like you're just looking at one train of thought. And it's
Hmm.
possible to do both. It's just we're not taught to do both.
Right.
Or we feel so scared with regard to what the what the alternative would be, but like the opposite of a goal is failure of the goal. So
Mm.
we focus so much on what it means if we failed. I don't know. Were
I
you gonna
just
say something?
feel I Yeah, I just feel that in that sense, like you have to live within your means. You know what I mean? Like, why do you need to go ahead and purchase a home that is way above your gross income, and you can't afford it, but you want to do it for your family, but it's going to cost you the time. You know what I mean? Like, to me, I feel like that's not the ultimate goal. That is not the American dream. To me, I feel like, hey, we can live in this apartment, but we're together. You know, I think that's worth more. I remember what we was watching something on TV, and this person, was had this beautiful house. They were sitting there eating dinner by themselves in this huge house, this huge table. She has money at the wazoo and everything like that. And I'm sitting here looking at it. I told my kid, like everybody was sitting on couches. I'm just like, yo, I'd rather be here with your knuckleheads than be alone eating dinner.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's, again, like for so many, that is the love. Look at everything I've created for. I want you to have that life that I didn't have. I
Hmm.
think there's a wise thing I heard it, like, again, there's another video I saw that was pretty cool. It was like how about we teach them what we always wanted to know,
Hmm.
instead of just giving them the things that we didn't have. It's just exactly like you said, it's a balance. Like, how
Hmm.
can we balance those two things? So, dude, I love where this went. And it's kind of like this isn't the greatest of transitions, but what would you say is you feel is your biggest regret as a dad?
I'm gonna be completely transparent with you. Um, Not one of my proudest moments, but my biggest regret is cheating on my wife and almost breaking my family apart, just because I felt unloved. I felt this, I felt that, and I let those emotions get the best of me. And went out and did what I did. And looking back, I'm like, wow, I was being so selfish, and I was ready to give up my family for nothing, you know.
Mm,
So if I were to go ahead and look back, that would be my biggest regret.
well, and I really commend you for sure. I never knew that,
Yeah.
and I'm curious what, because to me it's always like when we're in those moments of like when it's anger, or when in this case like it's like infidelity. It's like we're thinking about one thing. What would you say? You hinted at like I'm not being loved, or in this sense. What would you say are some of the things that that person in that moment was thinking and most importantly focusing on? because you weren't focusing on like, yeah, I'm gonna tear my parent, like I'm gonna possibly cost me my family. You weren't
Mhm.
thinking that. So what would you say again for the person who is listening to this, who's probably thinking that, or in that space? What were you feeling at the moment?
I mean, at that moment, as a man, I didn't feel loved. I didn't feel appreciated. I didn't feel a lot of things that I felt in the beginning, you know? So
Mm,
because of that, I went looking for that, the attention, the feeling loved, the feeling appreciated, the comments, you're a great dad, you're this, you're that, you're a good man, all those things I was like thirsting for. I would say I would be, if I were addicted to anything, it would be attention. Um, and I wasn't getting it. So because of that, I made a bad choice in my life.
and for the person who's feeling that right now,
Hmm.
and not only them, but that that version of you in the past, if you can go back in time and just look at that that Joey in time,
Hmm.
what would you want him what is the advice that you would give him now?
I mean, I should have followed my own advice. I've been putting this advice out there for a long time. Everything is temporary. Tomorrow's another day, guys. Whoever's listening to this, your problems, your heartache, your troubles, your addictions, anything you want to say that is there's a problem, or it's only temporary. That stuff only is a couple days long, a week, whatever the amount of time. But there's an end because the sun goes up and it goes down. It's a new day, it's a new slate, and you can reset yourself. So I should have taken that advice, and I'm like, yo, I know I'm feeling this way, but I know tomorrow is gonna be a better day, and I believe that because I believe in God, right? So He gives me hope every day. And in that time, that version of me, I actually turned my back on God, turned my back on the people at church, and turned my back on my friends because I didn't want to hear what they were going to say to me. I just wanted to do me, be selfish. But at the end of the day, when I came to my senses and I came back, and I was just like, no, this is not, it's not going to happen. I also had a wife and kids that were praying for their dad and their husband, and God heard their prayers and made me wake up from whatever I was, disorientated. I didn't know where I was, whatever. Um, and came back, and God redeemed me, redeemed me and my wife, and redeemed me in front of my kids. And at the end of the day, I remember sitting at the table and telling them what was going on, and all they could do is embrace me afterwards.
Mhm.
So yeah, I can honestly say that.
I love the and I'm very grateful and thank you for co-creating with me this conversation at this point. This isn't what we like, weren't any question that we were thinking about talking about. I think there's just something here that a man who's feeling that way is probably experiencing and wanting to know too. And I'm curious, there's tomorrow's a better day. What were some of the things that you and your wife, because so you guys are still together, you guys were both at my
Hmm.
wedding, there's so much
Hmm.
love between the two of you, like I never told you this, a lot of how I show up with Maria is like I'm passionate for you, I love you, but let's not also forget you're also my best friend. And I
Right,
show up in that way, in the way that I learned a lot of that from just seeing you and Carol,
right,
and just so like what you said, like to me is like shot, I was like I can't believe it. So
yeah.
I'm curious, like, what did you guys do to not only that happened, what were some of the things that like just the actionable steps that led you, and what would you credit to leading you guys here, along with God and just your faith in each other?
Okay, so listen, at the end of the day, relationship is a two-way street. If one of them wants to work it out and the other one doesn't, it's not going to work. But
Mm,
if both both parties are willing to work things out, then the possibilities are endless. So number one for me as a man, I had to admit my mistakes, ask for forgiveness, and hey, live with the consequences. You know, some people don't want to deal with that part, but you have to deal with the part. You have to deal with your consequences. The trust issue needs to be rebuilt again. You know, you have to be completely transparent with them. You have to. I mean, there's no secrets no more. You like my phone is an open book now. Like she um has access to my phone. To stay away from temptation, I had to get rid of all social media. So you never find me on no Instagram, no Facebook, or any other form of social media because that's just the world of temptation for me. My opinion, my personal thing. That's why I stay away. And to tell you the truth, I don't even miss it. You know what I mean? The people who really want to know me or get to know me or whatever, they have my phone number or you know where I live at, so we can hang out. Um, so that had to happen first, and then you know, had to go to my friends to, have accountability. So, we can both go there. And then let's say me and Carol are on different pages that one day that they could be the referee and, you know, guide the conversation, everything in love, right? Second thing I had to do was get counseling, bro. Like this kind of stuff, you just can't put a band-aid on it. This is a bullet wound. You're gonna try to put a band-aid on it. It's not gonna work, dude. So I was like, all right, we need counseling. And then Carol gave me the option, either you leave the house or we go together and get counseling. And I was like, you know what? Let's go get the counseling because I ain't ready to leave yet. So we went on, we got counseling, and then started getting involved again with the church and just being there, present, and I mean, all those different steps is like all these different steps. But me as a man, if I wanted it to work, I had to do them, regardless of all the pain and the remembering, because women don't forget easily. You know, I had it, and the times that she's upset or whatever like that, I can't get upset because hey, I did her wrong. You know, so I have to take that too on the chin. I know, babe. You want to talk about it? So yeah, there's a lot of different things that we had to do to get to where we are right now. And I am very grateful that we're here at this moment. I mean, to tell you the truth, like, me and Andres, like, our friendship is very short time. And to be where we are now is amazing. Like, I was like, when we got the invitation to your wedding, it was just like, wow, really? But yeah, man, it's those different steps that we had to take. Me, like I said, me as a man, I had to date, and I don't regret it at all, man.
Wow. I think this is something you just touched on, something that really honestly brought me back to kind of like the what would you do differently? Like it's just such a hard thing to say, is like I don't know what I would do. I know there's some things what I would like to do differently, but like at least for me personally, like my dad wasn't in the picture. My mom worked a lot. She wasn't always there. Me and my sister dealt with things differently. And like, it was a rocky road, but I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that. You and I wouldn't have met. You wouldn't be here.
Mhm.
Like, you wouldn't be the man that I respect and I admire so much if it wasn't for everything else. So it's like what would I really do differently?
Right.
So, dude, powerful stuff. I really commend you for that strength, and I admire you even more and respect you even more. I don't know I
Yeah.
could, but I am. Just like you showing up. Because again, this isn't just this podcast to me. It's not me. It's me and the other person here. It's you and I right now showing
Right.
up in service for someone who's listening, whether it's another dad, maybe it's a dad in a very similar situation. And I think even maybe some kids who are missing out and want to hear, that perspective. And I think everything that you've said um, is beautiful, man. So I wanted
Oh,
to shout you out right now before anything. But um, for the fathers who don't get to see their children as often as they want, what would you want them to know right
I'm gonna give you a short story. Um, my father, the one that raised me, is not my biological father. He took me in when I was 1 year old. And thank God, I guess God had great timing, and I guess he knew I needed a father figure in my life, and he put this man in my life, and to this day I love him to death. But he also had two other daughters from his previous marriage, which
Mhm.
they felt abandoned. Okay. Um, the thing I would say to those fathers who don't get to see their kids as much, you need to fight for them. You need to let them know that I don't care what kind of person your mother is, what lies she's telling you, whatever um whatever bad thing she tells you about me. You need to fight for them. You need to show up for them. You need to do whatever it takes to let them know that you are present, that you are there, that you are there to support them, that you are there to encourage them, that you are there for whatever needs, financial needs, advice, whatever, that you're there. You need to fight for that. And my dad didn't understand that, and I guess I right now he has a bad relationship, I would say, with those two daughters of his. They don't see him. They don't pretty much respect him. They don't want to know nothing about him. And my brother, who also has children from other women, um, he told them, "Listen, those are my kids, and I'm gonna be there for them. They're gonna come to my house. They're gonna spend time with me." He did whatever he had to do to be present in their kid's life, and he was explaining that to my father. But my father, he just kept on saying, "Hey, she was, the ex-wife was doing this, doing that. You need to put that aside and not focus on that, but focus more on the kids, because the kids didn't do anything. They did not
Yes.
do they didn't do, like, the kids didn't do anything. All they know is that mom and dad are not together no more, and I don't see my dad anymore. That's all they know. Whatever happens in the background, that happens in the background, but you need to be there and show them that you are there, that you are present, and fight for them. Fight for them. Even if it's like the hardest thing to do. Like, nowadays we have technology, you have FaceTime, you have all these type of things to see them, show up to their events. Um, don't be that deadbeat dad. Or, oh, she's just like, oh, she's giving me such a headache, I don't want to deal with it no more. Bump that. The kids didn't do anything. You be there for them. And that's what I can tell. That's the best advice I can give them. I'm like, yo, just be there.
Because there's so many things that came to mind as you were talking. The three things specifically. One, you mind if I play like a quick game with you, like really quick?
Sure. Yeah.
So I've been doing this in my coaching sessions when it comes to the business, but when it comes to, let's say Carol, your wife. Let's say you're
Mhm.
walking down the street, and across the street you see Carol and she's getting yelled at by someone. What would you do?
I go over there and be like, yo, what the hell? I'll ask questions later about Carol, but I'm going to defend my wife.
Mm. Let's say same thing. You're walking down the street. Across the street, you see Carol crying. What would you do?
Run over there and ask her what's going on. What happened?
Now let's change it. What if you had the most horrible day ever? Like everything went wrong. Work was what it was. Like your freaking pants ripped. Like everything messed up. And then you see, again, same scenario across the street. Carol's getting yelled at. Would you do anything differently?
I would, yes. I wouldn't, I would know. I'll continue to be on. Like, I had to put that aside. You know what I mean? Because men, I believe we like to compartmentalize. That's the word,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I can put that aside, put that in the box, throw it aside, and I'm gonna do my husband duties and do what I have to do. Then when I'm calm down, chilled, relaxed, babe, I had a bad day. This was going on, da, 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 But I'm gonna show up first as a husband and protect my wife, because that's what I'm called to do. And if she's crying or whatever, I want to know what's going on. Put myself in the back burner, man. At the end of the day, when I'm ready and she asks me what was going on in your day, whatever like that, we'll get to it. But at that moment, your adrenaline is going up, your protective mode is coming in, kicking in, and I'm gonna go ahead and be the Superman that my wife expects
Yeah.
me to be.
And it's because it's the person, you know who you're showing up for, you know why you're showing up. And I think
Exactly.
that's, to me, that is how you're describing any man to show up for the kid who isn't there. Whether it's
Right.
whether it's a step kid, whether you feel like, you know, you're estranged from your kids. Because what I've learned from one dad specifically, he's like, I don't the reason I didn't talk to my kids was because I felt guilt. I felt
Mm.
ashamed. And I didn't want to face that. And you said something earlier on with regard to the experience that you had with the infidelity. It's like I was ready to face the consequences. I was ready to do all this stuff because, you knew, in this scenario, I messed up severely, but I was still going to show up for my wife and my kids. And I
Right.
think that's something for the men who are listening to this, whether, you know, you don't see your kids as often because, you know, you see them every other weekend, or maybe you live in another state, or maybe, you know, another country. And I would say this even goes on to the step kids, like, change the focus, be willing to deal with be willing to deal with them being angry with you, be okay with them being disappointed and being sad and not wanting to talk with you. I remember another dad, to me it was bananas. It was like, my daughter doesn't want to talk to me. Well, you know what, I'm not going to talk to her either. I'm like, okay, like what do you think is going to come out of that? Is that what you really want?
Yeah.
And it's just like the change of the focus. You also touched on something really powerful that your brother said, like, these are my kids, I'm going to show up for them no matter what.
Hmm.
And I think, again, even for the, like, I don't want to talk too much, I want to go back to you, but one thing that stands out to me, like, some step parent, like parents who aren't the biological parent of that kid, one thing I've noticed is like there's some estrangement there. Again, like, it could be like their relationship with that person's mom, or those kids' mom, or maybe the dad. There's something there that my invitation, especially for the men who have that, maybe that's how they're showing up, or maybe their wives are showing up for their kids in that way, is like, talk about that, because again, like you said, the kid feels it. Just because that's not my kid does not mean that's not my kid, and they did nothing wrong.
Hmm.
And I think you touched on something that's very passionate for me, that I've seen, unfortunately, that I've seen, that I wish I never saw. But dude, thank you for that. And what is so I'm not a new father, so I'm not announcing anything here. You're not being surprised here. But you know, I want to be a dad. You know, what is one piece of advice that you would give, um, me, who's someone who wants to be a dad? But what's another piece of advice that you would or what's the same piece of advice that you would give to someone who's about to become a dad right now?
Okay. Yeah. So definitely have another story to go with that. I have a friend. He's in Florida. He's a sheriff, and he's about to have a kid, right? And knowing how the police department is, that's work more than 12 hours a day, whatever like that. So I remember him telling me that he was gonna have a kid, and I'm like, dude, I'm gonna tell you right now. Me as a father, I'm gonna pass on this advice to you. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. This kid doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much toys he has, whatever like that. What he's gonna remember is the time you spent with him. And he was like, okay. I'm like, yeah, because I know how being a cop is. I know that it's a lot of hours, and you're out there busting your hump, and you think you're doing the best job that you are doing, the best you can, and you're going to be out there more than 12 hours because you could work 12 hours and then do paid jobs and do this and that, and before you know it, it's already nighttime, your kids already asleep, and you didn't have dinner. There's one thing my wife told me not too long ago: as long as you have one meal with them, it's good, you know. So later on, and maybe after I told him that, maybe 3 or 4 years after that, I remember he contacted. Oh, I saw him one time, and he was just like, "Yo, Joe, you know that advice that you gave me? I took that to heart, and I'm telling you, the time I'm happy with my kid, I will never ever get back." And I was like, I'm glad to hear that you took the advice, man, because me as a father, I know that an absent father can lead a kid in the wrong direction. Yes, you can have a mom and this and that, and moms are loving and this and that, but it's just something about a dad, a strong man, who's there coaching you through life, giving you advice. There's just something about that is very impactful in a kid's life. So when I gave him that advice and he told me that he was following it, I was just like, "Man, I'm so happy to hear that." So if I was to ask a new dad, if I was going to give advice to a new dad, or I would tell him, "Man, be there, be there." And you know what? I tell anybody, your kids grow up fast. Don't blink,
Mhm.
because before you know it,
Yes.
they will grow up before your eyes. I mean, that's a thing that me and my mom, like, I talk to my mom, and she tells me all the time. She goes, "You know what? I would give back. I would definitely give back, spending more time. Like right now, I remember when you guys were running around the house, running amok, making noises and that. And I'm like, oh, I can't wait for these kids to grow up and get out of here, right?" And now that we're all grown up, she wishes that we were back home, you know, making that same noise,
Mhm.
making that ruckus, all that. And that's what she tells me. I'm just like, well, mom, you did the best you can, And I tell anybody, hey, spend that time with your kids and don't blink, because it happens so fast. Before you know it, I got a 22-year-old coming up. I got a 16-year coming up. My son's gonna be he only has 2 more years left in high school. And they're gonna be on their own. And all I could do is coach them through life. That's it. I already had my turn. I had my chance to, discipline them, give them all the resources they needed. After a certain point, I'm a coach, and then after that, it's just like, hey, um, the experience I had, or the advice I get to give to them. That's all I have, But that was there.
Wow.
Hmm.
Oh man. And so I wanted to extend this invitation to you. This isn't for me. This isn't for anyone listening. This is only for two people specifically. And I want to invite you again. It could be something you've never said. Something tells me that's just not the case with you,
Hmm.
or something you've said before, but you want them to know right now. What is one thing you want to tell Julie? What is one thing you want to tell John today?
Um, hmm. so my wife asked me that question, and I was like, "Listen, I can't tell you right now, because by the time I say it, it's going to be cold. It won't be as effective as it is right now, this moment where you're asking me." So what would I tell Jules? I'm like, "Julie, first, I love you to death. You're a beautiful woman. You have so much to go. Me and your mom have your back. We are your number one cheerleaders in life. Um, Stay close to God. He'll guide you, and pretty much let you know that we're here for you for anything. We're here." And for Jonathan, I'm like, "Man, you got so much going for you, John. You are an awesome, good looking, so many talents. You got so much going on in your life. And I just want to let you know that your support will always be here. We are so proud of you. And we want you to know that you will never have to worry that we're not here. We are definitely here. And like I said before, we're your number one cheerleaders, and we want you to push forward. Don't worry about mistakes. Um, those come and go. Um, that doesn't define who you are. Um, there's so much, there's love for you guys. And just let you know that you're surrounded by a whole lot of love. And wish you guys the best.
That is powerful, brother. Thank you so much for joining. And thank you guys for listening. I got so much out of this. And this is definitely one of those things where I'm going to be listening back again, see what I didn't pick up the first time. What am I going to think differently now that I'm thinking in a new way? So thank you for showing up with such transparency, such not clarity, but such I don't even want to say courage, because I think it's like no, like you know who you are. There's nothing. I think
Hmm.
you've already done the scary stuff.
Yeah.
But I thank you. This was selfishly, I'm doing this definitely for myself, just so I learn what the people who are doing it well before me, and I'm really grateful for you, man. So thank
Yeah,
you so much,
definitely.
brother.
It was an honor. I just want to tell all the dads out there who are listening, man, listen, you're not the only one going through the struggle. We all been
Mhm.
there, but what we can do is lift each other up. Lift you're not alone in this battle, man. Being a man is not an easy task. What you're gonna do with it is the thing that you need to worry about. Are you gonna steer in the right path, or are you gonna go in the wrong path? So there's other men out there who have the same mentality I have, that are there for their kids. And if you need to talk, if you need any advice, if you need anything, another man out there will help you. You just gotta listen, take the advice, and move forward. So it's an honor, definitely. Thank you for even including me in this, because I feel like I have something to say, you know.
Yeah.
And if anybody wants to listen, listen. If you don't want to listen, just turn it off. No big deal. But it's gonna impact somebody. You know what I mean?
And if you don't want to listen, or there's something here that makes you like, oh, I don't want to, I want to stop, I invite you to reflect on that. What is there a resistance there? Is there a reason there's something here that's maybe wanting you to pull away? Because
Right.
that is an indication of something that's much something, if you explored, can lead you to somewhere great. But it's like that, the knight facing the dragon. Sometimes you got to go through something crazy. So if you got to this point, you definitely didn't stop. But
Right. Right.
just advice for the future. So
Hmm.
thank you, man.
Yeah. Definitely. Thank you.